the season of farm fires upon us, stubble burning. And as usually, it comes as the national capital breathes toxic air. While a lot has been said and debated on how stubble burning has decreased over the last few years, with government filing affidavits in courts, here's a reality check. Look at the last data on stubble burning for last 4 years, all for the period of September 15 to September 23rd for Punjab, Haryana, MP and Uttar Pradesh. Look at that. Look at the increase. 2024 has reported 124 cases, 2023 just 25, 2022 132 and 2021 16. Look at that number. Look at that graph. And look at what 2024 is already holding for us. The Supreme Court yet again has come down heavily on the centre and the Commission for Air Quality Management for doing just nothing. Nothing substantial has been done to address Delhi's air pollution. Everybody knows that except discussion, nothing is happening. Well, I'm not saying this. It's the Supreme Court that's saying all of this. Everything is being done merely on paper, not just pollution. Even the CAQM, which is the Commission for Air Quality Management, the apex body, will come to that in a bit. All of that, their rules are all up in thin air. Not even a single prosecution against cases registered over stubble burning. Delhi cannot be made to go through this year after year. We don't know how we will do it. It's your job, but it must be stopped. It, of course, here means air pollution. But it's still a very, very far cry. It even took on Punjab and Haryana for collecting just nominal compensation from farmers burning paddy stubble. Remember, both the governments had announced that they had constituted heavy fines for stubble burning. Well, as the court said, up in thin air, rather toxic air. This sounds so familiar, and so does the National Capital SOS. Look at this. Let's just have that graphics up. 2023 versus 2024, October 3. So we've taken just October 3, 2023 and 2024 compared the 2 years. Both were in poor category. We are breathing worse air on October 3, 2024 when you compared it to last year. And if you look at the 2023 Delhi air pollution, the annual PM 2.5 average is up by 2% when you compare it to earlier. December last year was the worst since 2018, which means it's unhealthy for sensitive groups. And then here's the larger figure of what the national capital looks like, what you're breathing. You've seen these numbers. Every now and then, we are bringing it to your screen. Just how much of this are you breathing, the PM 2.5 levels? Most of this in poor category. I'm being joined at this point by Bhaveen Kandhari, who's an environmentalist and member for My Right to Breathe. Also Chetan Bhattacharjee, who's an air pollution and climate journalist. Dr. Dharinder Tayal, who is a spokesperson for BJP, as well as advocate Anmol Panwar, who is a spokesperson for Aam Aadmi Party. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. I don't know whether we are breathing less polluted air or are we on the verge of possibly just about getting the worst. Let me just come straight to you, Chetan Bhattacharjee, first. As a journalist, you have tracked this very closely. You have tracked court's verdicts, court's orders year on year. What do you make out of what the court has said? And also, good evening. Good to see you on the screen.
Thanks, Sneha. Nice to meet you after a long time. What the court has said today, that it's criticized the states for not stopping, not putting an end to stubble burning. That is welcome. However, it has come too late. Stubble burning cannot be stopped in the last few weeks of while the harvest is being carried out. A lot of reports have shown that it has to be done well in advance. well in advance, and there are enough expert reports even within the government, and they know what exactly needs to be done. A recent report put the figure at something like as little as 1,500 to 1,800 rupees per hectare that could be given as an incentive to farmers to cut the paddy and send it off for some kind of reuse, either in power plants or for packing material or whatever it might be. That hasn't been done. 1,500 to 1,800 rupees a hectare does not seem to be a lot. Even if you see the entire state cumulatively, it might be a few hundred crores. In balance, what's at stake is the health of all of North India. It's not just Delhi, it's the entire North India belt. The smoke from these fires, whether they're in Punjab or Haryana or UP or MP, they go across the Indo-Gangetic plain. So yes, the Supreme Court's comments are welcome, but I hope that, but we are very familiar with these for year after year, such reports come out, such comments are made. But what is the action? What is the implementation on ground? We've all seen.
Right. Bhavreen Kandhari, good evening. Good to see you. But Ms. Bhavreen, we have discussed a lot about this. Every other week we are meeting. My question to you, what are you doing personally at this point? We are almost at the verge at the season where things just spiral, where the toxicity just spirals, particularly for sensitive categories. You as a mother, as an activist, have been battling for clean air, if that's the word I can use. But while we are at this very crucial juncture, what are the steps that you are taking personally? How are you looking at the season ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Sneha, and thank you again for always bringing such an important, conversation. Of course, the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court talks, the conversations begin, but like Chetan said, of course, everything that they're saying is welcome because at least we talk about it. Otherwise, rest of the year, it's not like there have been huge amount of conversations, webinars from experts, from farmers, from agricultural scientists, etc. But the point is that as a mother, if you're asking me, as a concerned citizen, this is about air. It's about air. We are breathing that every second of our lives. There's nothing much you can do. You cannot escape. The elite, which with the privileged lot can, do a little bit better by staying indoors, etc., which soon will be in that situation. But that doesn't work, and I don't spend too much, time thinking about that. Rather, we are, as you know, we are trying to push policy and say the right thing so it can work, support each other, the government, the authorities, etc. And speaking of that, yes, there is a huge gap. Even for the Supreme Court, or the Honorable Supreme Court should stress on the systemic changes that have to go on throughout the year. Like Chetan said, we need, there are reports. In 2019, the Honorable Supreme Court had asked the state governments to give rupees 100 per quintal. I think it's time to ask whether that was done. Again, this 1,700 rupees a hectare. That's this is support. There is wrong policy. That the machines have machine harvesting has failed. It is the manual harvesting which is going to work because the machine harvesting is not able to cut the stalks, and that last bottom of stalks is eventually burnt. So these are the wrong narratives that are thrown, and then it's not now, it's being said year after year. It's as simple as that. We know that in Punjab, the farmers are being compelled to actually buy these hybrid seeds, which are again are responsible for those hard stalks that cannot be cut with hand. So that needs to change into the native species, and native seeds must be given. How difficult is that? Even if they decide today to do this, the next crop cycle will have, it's easy to implement. implement it in the next crop cycle. It's just that the things are being said very in the broader vision. Of course, there's a certain sense of anger, disappointment, but those dialogues coming from the highest courts, judiciary, is not good enough. Now it's time to actually move the onus from the citizens, from farmers, stakeholders, to the people who are responsible, the governments, the authorities, the commission, who have clearly failed. They have clearly failed because these are very, very doable policy changes that should have been implemented years ago. And it takes time. We know it takes months and years. It will not happen overnight now if you start talking about stubble. And also I'd like to point out, Sneha, that it is only in this last few monsoon days that we've never had a single good day of air. Throughout the year, we've been living in this mess. We've been over whether in the poor or very poor air. So let's not, only because it becomes visible now and the conversations begin, but there is a huge crisis that we are facing throughout the year for us and our children.
You've made definitely important points. In fact, we have Chaudhry Sawit Malik with us, who is a Kisan leader. Chaudhry ji, if I can ask you, do you want to respond to what Bhavreen has said? A lot is being said about how farmers are not doing what they are meant to do. One question that I want to ask you is, have the incentives that the government promised you, have the alternatives that the government promised you, have they reached you? आपको सरकार ने जो promise किया, आपको वो मिला? आपको वो incentives मिले हैं? आपको machine harvesting के options आपके पास आए हैं? ये Has this become a reality? आप ये देख रहे हैं कि हो रहा है आपके आसपास?
स्नेहा जी, किसान को तो कुछ मिलता ही नहीं है, ये सबको पता है। जो योजनाएं बनती है वो फाइलों में दब के रह जाती है। मैं दूसरा ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि किसान एक सॉफ्ट टारगेट है और उसके ऊपर आरोप लगा दिए जाते हैं कि हरियाणा का और पंजाब का किसान पराली जलाता है, वो धुआं यहाँ पर आ जाता है। अरे ये तो किसानों को ही दिल्ली तक नहीं आने देते, उन्हीं को रास्ते में रोक लेते हैं, तो धुआं कहाँ से आएगा? दूसरा मैं आपको एक जानकारी के लिए बता दूं, अभी प्रदूषण को लेकर कानपुर की एक एजेंसी ने कानपुर में जो आईआईटी संस्थान है, कानपुर आईआईटी की केरा ने एक रिपोर्ट तैयार की है और उसमें बताया है कि दिल्ली में जो प्रदूषण हो रहा है उसका सबसे मुख्य कारण जो है, जो सड़कों पर धूल होती है उसकी वजह से सबसे अधिक प्रदूषण हो रहा है। दूसरे नंबर पे जो टैक्सियां और गाड़ियां चल रही इतनी ज्यादा हैं उनकी वजह से हो रहा है। तीसरा इंडस्ट्री की वजह से हो रहा है। किसान का जो प्रदूषण का मामला है वो यहाँ तक नहीं आता है, अगर किसी कारण आता भी है तो वो नाम मात्र की वजह से है। तीसरा एक वैज्ञानिक तथ्य ये है कि इस वक्त मौसम में बदलाव आता है, दिन में धूप होती है, धूल उड़ती है, हवाओं में जाती है, लेकिन रात को हल्की ठंड होती है, जिसकी वजह से उसके कण वो जम जाते हैं और वो एक परत बन जाती है। ये केरा का कहना है। कानपुर आईआईटी जो है, जो देश की नामी जानी संस्था है, उन्होंने अभी एक सर्वे कराया है।
मलिक, लेकिन आप जो बोल रहे हैं वो रिपोर्ट्स में है और हम अपने एक्सपर्ट्स के पास भी जाएंगे, लेकिन चौधरी जी मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहती हूँ, आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आप जो बोल रहे हैं उसका एक पार्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला है और ये बोला है कि फार्मर्स के अगेंस्ट कोई एक्शन नहीं लिया गया है, स्टबल बर्निंग के अगेंस्ट कोई एक्शन नहीं लिया गया है, सब कुछ कागज में ही है। आपके जो लोग हैं, जो आपके जो फार्मर्स हैं, आपकी जो यूनियन है, जो सारे फार्मर्स काम करते हैं, उनमें ये सोच है, आप देख रहे हैं कि कोई भी अपने तरीके, अपने हार्वेस्टिंग के तरीके में बदलाव ला रहे हैं, जला नहीं रहे हैं, मशीन हार्वेस्टिंग हो रही है, आप ये देख रहे हैं, ये हो रहा है आपके आसपास, कुछ भी हो रहा है पिछले 3-4 सालों में?
स्नेहा जी, ये हो रहा है। और मैं आपको बता दूं, अगर कोई भी किसान पराली या पत्ती जलाता है, ड्रोन द्वारा उसके फोटो खींचे जाते हैं, अगले दिन उसके घर नोटिस पहुंच जाता है और एफआईआर तक होती है। और इसको लेकर हम मुद्दा भी उठाते हैं कि जब किसान कोई पराली या पत्ती जला जाता है तो ड्रोन के द्वारा उसका फोटो खींचकर नोटिस भेजा जाता है, लेकिन जब हमारी फसलें मौसम की वजह से बर्बाद होती है, कोई आपदा आती है, उस वक्त ड्रोन नहीं आता और उसकी फोटो नहीं खींचते, मुआवजे में उसका काम नहीं किया जाता। किसान अब कहीं पराली और पत्ती नहीं जला रहा है, उसके लिए उसको हार्वेस्टिंग और तमाम केमिकल भी आ रहे
Can we
हैं
have
जिसको
the
छिड़का
graphics
जा
up
रहा है।
on the screen on the numbers for September of how the spike in stubble burning has been very clearly witnessed? मुझे पता नहीं साबित मलिक जी आप देख पा रहे हैं कि नहीं, लेकिन हमारे पास जो
स्नेहा
डेटा
जी,
है
मैं
वो
देख पा
क्लियरली
रहा
दिखाता
हूँ।
है कि आप
और
जो बोल रहे हैं वो ग्राउंड रियलिटी से मैच नहीं कर पा रहा है। लेकिन let me just get
स्नेहा
in Dr.
जी,
Dharinder Tayal at this point. Dr. Dharinder Tayal,
स्नेहा
you
जी,
heard Chaudhary Savit Malik. He is very clearly saying everything is in thin air. He is saying exactly what the Supreme Court has said. He is saying everything is in thin air. They
स्नेहा
have
जी,
got nothing. They
राजनीतिक
have got nothing
पार्टियां
except
आपस में
promises and
लड़ती हैं
assurances.
और
But
कोई
in
भी
reality,
बचाना नहीं चाहता, एक दूसरे को पर आरोप लगाती हैं खाली। लेकिन दिल्ली की जनता के हित में
जी
या प्रदूषण
जी
के हित में कोई काम नहीं करना चाहता। अभी देखना, एक दूसरे के ऊपर आरोप लगाएगा, दूसरे के लगाएगा, लेकिन ये जनहित का मुद्दा है, समाज का मुद्दा है और आम पब्लिक का मुद्दा है। इस पर सभी पार्टियों को मिल बैठकर बात करनी चाहिए, एक रणनीति बनानी चाहिए, आरोप प्रत्यारोप से दूर हटना चाहिए।
सर रणनीति बनाने का तो टाइम गुजर गया, पर खैर मुझे डॉक्टर धरिंदर तायल के पास जाने दीजिए। डॉक्टर धरिंदर तायल, प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड टू व्हाट द पैनलिस्ट्स हैव सेड, each one of them, all three of them who've spoken before you. It's literally repeat mode of what the Supreme Court has said. Everything is up in thin air, including the Kisan leader.
Oh, thank you, Sneha. What the Supreme Court has said and what Mr. Malik has also said, the first thing is that, whether we are ourselves staying there or even if we are not staying in NCR, our friends, family, and fellow citizens are staying there. And it is a collective responsibility, undoubtedly. But moving from there, when we are the government, then every government has a role to play and has a responsibility to execute. I think the first thing first is that your viewers should know the extent of the problem and where it is coming from. Because when we say the problem is from Haryana and Punjab, so if I take you through the data of 2023, the farm fires in Haryana were 2,303. Whereas in Punjab, they were 36,623. So that is the difference between Haryana and Punjab. So that is one part of the issue that the viewers must be aware of. So largely the problem is coming from the huge number of fires which are there in Punjab. And when the Aam Aadmi Party came in power there, they said, look, these people didn't know how to handle it. By November 2023, this will all be sorted out. This was Kejriwal's statement. We are into November 2024. Nothing has changed. In the Supreme Court, Aam Aadmi Party said it is because of the small land holdings that it is happening, because the farmer cannot afford the diesel and the driver. Now, they are not using biodecomposers. 5 lakh acres in Haryana have used biodecomposers, 4 lakh acres in UP, 5,000 acres in Punjab. And Mr. Bhupendra Yadav, the environment minister, is on record saying that Mr. Kejriwal officially refused to use biodecomposers. Whereas earlier, and even this year, Gopal
Advocate
Rai has
Anmol
said...
Panwar, do you want to come in? Advocate Anmol Panwar, do you want to comment? How do you look at what Dharinder Tayal is saying? By the way, let me just make this very clear to our viewers before we go to our experts on the panel, and we are, of course, getting political reactions. The Supreme Court has come down extremely heavily, not only at the centre, but also at the Punjab and the Haryana government. And, of course, the apex air quality body that is supposed to supervise all of that, and we'll get into that as well. But Advocate Anmol Panwar, very quickly, please respond.
Sneha ji, the Honorable Supreme Court has exposed the Bharatiya Janata Party's lack of commitment. They have exposed the BJP, saying that they are not concerned about the rising air pollution. And as far as what Mr. Tayal was saying, Mr. Tayal, as per the World Air Report Quality 2023, 20 out of the 100 top polluted cities are in Haryana, and 42 cities out of 50 in India are polluted. And most of them are from the BJP-ruled state. It's not a Delhi-specific problem, it's a North India problem. And as far as Delhi and Punjab is concerned, there has been a decline in the farm fires to about 37% in last 3 years. And in Delhi, more than 37% decrease in the air pollution in last 10 years, because we have taken several steps in the past. We switched to electric vehicles. We shut down all the thermal power plants, and the green cover has increased from 20% to 23% in the past 10 years. All this has been possible because we have the intent to tackle this air pollution. But as far as BJP is concerned, they never participate in the meeting. They never call a meeting of this CAQM on which they have overarching powers. And as far as this season is concerned, Punjab has
Advocate
already
Anmol Panwar,
submitted.
by the way, the Supreme Court very strongly spoke about the Aam Aadmi Party government in Punjab, about how they've been just faking fines and taken very little fines, nominal fines from farmers, despite claiming on paper that they are very hefty fines. But Dharinder Tayal, please respond to what Anmol Panwar is saying before I go to Chetan Bhattacharjee.
Yeah, something very
See,
interesting, something very
All right.
interesting here. Now, one, they have decided, Aam Aadmi Party has decided Delhi will not get oxygen, whether it is COVID time or now. So it is very clear they're out and out to kill Delhi. Now, let me tell you what he has spoken of. The court has said meetings have been held. The interesting part is, of the money, the center has given money, and CSC report is there of July. Of the funds given by the center, 70% in Delhi are unutilized. And wonder who's second? Punjab, which is 69.2% funds unutilized. So the money has been given. Talk about machines. Now, the CAQM had said 20,270 machines were to be distributed in Punjab by August. Till today, 7,521 have been distributed. When do they want to distribute them? In December and Jan? So it is gross inefficiency. Earlier, 11,000 machines were missing. So
Advocate Anmol Panwar, a minute to you.
Party has been all about.
Advocate Anmol Panwar, a minute to you.
Yeah, the state agriculture department has already distributed 21,000 fresh subsidized crop residue machine this year so far. And for ex situ management, and I have it on record, Mr. Tayal, you can have it from me. The Department of Renewable Energy, Punjab Energy Development, they have already roped in by the Punjab Pollution Control Board, and as many as 1,59,000 machines, including these 21 procured in the past 3 years, have been distributed to the farmers. And we have taken strict action against the ones who are involved in this stubble burning. The directions have been given. Directions
and
have been given to
Anmol Panwar, you've made your points. I've given enough time to both of you. But at the heart of the entire matter, let's look at what the Supreme Court has really said. The apex body does not even have experts. The apex body does not even have representation from neighboring states of the national capital, including the national capital, in fact. The Supreme Court has said, how is an apex body going to function in this manner? The Supreme Court has gone on to say that we will now ensure that there will be experts. These are Supreme Court's words. Dharinder Tayal, you'll have to give me some time. Chetan Bhattacharjee, break this down for us. I mean, is our fate literally sealed? Are we entering another phase, another winter of absolute toxicity? Can anything change? Because we just heard the political back and forth. Each government, each party claiming what they do. And then the Supreme Court comes down extremely heavily saying everything is in thin air. The Supreme Court making it very clear, not even one prosecution for stubble burning. Remember, this was the election season. So at the end of the day, everything is also about votes. And is that the irony of India? Are we looking at just our fate sealed, Chetan Bhattacharjee?
Well, I wouldn't bet on things improving this season. I mean, if you look at it, it's been 10 years since, if you recall, the apocalypse headlines when WHO listed Delhi as being more polluted than Beijing. What has happened since then? Has air pollution gone down? Maybe a little bit, but not much. The figure of 100 micrograms that you've been showing on your screen, that's been the average annual pollution, give or take, for the last several years in Delhi. what else does the science tell us? Researchers have shown that over 2 million deaths are linked to air pollution in India alone. The only country higher is China. That's almost 4 deaths a minute. Can we afford that? Of course we can't afford that. Is enough being done? Of course it's not being done. I mean, I'm surprised that the politicians on the panel are still bickering. I mean, we've seen this with as regular as the air pollution. Every time the season rolls around, the politicians of opposing parties come along and bicker. I would like to, however, point out that there is actually an initiative, a bipartisan initiative where the BJP, Congress, and other opposition MPs have actually come together and are working together to understand and to tackle the problem of air pollution. Maybe we should support efforts like those, which are more result-oriented. We don't hear much about those kind of efforts. The question about the CAQM, I think let's look at it in a balanced way. The CAQM itself is welcome because it's an empowered body and it's the first to use an airshed approach, which means not just isolated political entities like Delhi or Punjab or Haryana, but the entire region together. But it needs to be more proactive. It needs to use its powers. So I think the conditions, the science is all there. We should be able to cut down air pollution, but it needs political will.
Bhavrin Kandhari, political will. When we look at that, it's again, this is an election season. We've just finished an election season, Bhavrin Kandhari. Now, this winter, there are again children who are going to be going to schools. There are also children who are going to be falling sick. We are also already breathing air that is toxic. It's dangerous for sensitive groups. Sensitive groups means children, means the elderly. Could you just break this down for us, for our viewers? The kind of air that we are breathing, the levels of toxicity that we are breathing, it's as poor. What does that really mean? What does that mean for an average citizen who's breathing that air?
So, Sneha, I'd like to say this, in fact, on one of the shows. I'm so sorry you asked me and I've just kind of lost that. That, you know, we have not still updated our WHO AQI guidelines as per WHO, which it's been over 2.5 years now. And that means probably the air which you're calling poor is very poor, and the air which you're calling good is moderate, and moderate is poor. So, so this is something again very important, and this is where I will still stress, whether it's the Commission for Air Quality Management or our politicians and leaders, they must lead. They must work on policy. They must work on the systemic changes. This is what makes, you know, we are right now in denial. That is the biggest problem, you know, right now hearing the politicians, because it's not about which source and how much and where. Every source of pollution is important. Every microgram that of the pollution that our children are breathing is extremely toxic and dangerous. We have to treat it like that. We cannot say that, okay, this quality of poison is good for my child and there's another brand which is better. It doesn't work like that.
Contributors for the national capital or the northern region. I mean, it's very different across the northern region, but for the national capital. Which are the big contributory factors? And we've, of course, gone through this, but I would like for you to just about repeat this.
Yeah, Chaudhary ji. Yeah, Chaudhary ji just, in fact, highlighted all those. But everything is important. So is Stubble, and at this point. But everything will need. So it's, you know, it comes from the construction dust to vehicular emissions of, you know, biomass burning. Now, winter, again, we are, you know, going to be talking about biomass burning in a bigger way. There is industrial pollution. So it's not like, of course, construction and throughout the year we have seen dust and construction dust, as well as the waste management. I mean, look at the landfills, and, you know, because in the summer when they catch fire, then we talk about landfills. Right now we're talking of stubble. We don't want to talk about also the policy, like I said, you know, we have the year of millets going on, but then when we are talking of bringing in an alternate crop like maize, you know, there is no, you know, support, you know, for the farmers. The maximum support price is not meeting their requirements. So those are the kind of things that, you know, what and it's year after year, because the kind of things that I've just said, the experts have clearly listed about the machine harvesting, which is a failure, or the hybrid seeds. These are policy changes that have been pointed out for years now, and it is extremely sad that we are not able to implement something as simple and basic as that, because that is going to incentivize the farmers, that is going to empower them, and then of course once everything is put in place and all
Right.
the support is given to the farmers, and then they violate, the penalization should come into action. Similarly, the same thing goes for waste management. We have a 2016 bylaws which are not implemented even till today in 2024. So these violations are basically coming from the government, the authorities, and it's high time the judiciary takes a stand on the officers, on the politicians, rather than the citizens and stakeholders. We don't need to give up our cars and being asked
Okay.
to
All right.
use public transport when there is no public transport, there is no decent public transport. So that is the kind of, it's just an example, but that works for every source of pollution.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I understand where that comes from, and especially when women's security is a big issue, that just about doubles up for every woman who's working, and not necessarily in the organized sector, even in the unorganized sector. That's just about another facet, a very important one, but I don't think we'll have time for that today. To Dr. Dharinder Tayal as well as Advocate Anmol Panwal, I'll give you both a minute each. We seem to have lost on the golden period where there could have been very, very strong actions. There could be many reasons for having lost out on that period. But to your voters who have voted you to power in the national capital and at the center, what are you promising them this festive season? Is there anything that you can promise them except toxic air? First to you, Dr. Dharinder Tayal.
Sneha, I think what is very important here is that, what Mr. Anmol said, that we've done a fantastic job in Punjab. We've reduced, yes, they've reduced the farm fires by 25%. But what has happened? The land under farm fires has gone up by 27%. So effectively, nothing has happened. The important thing here is, in the Supreme Court, Aam Aadmi Party said there are small farmers for whom nothing can be done because they can't afford it. Biodecomposers only cost 30 rupees per acre. So if it is a 10-acre farm, he's a small farmer with only 10 acres, only 300 rupees for a biodecomposer. But Mr. Kejriwal has officially refused to use them. The other part is the role of the central government and the state governments. The central government was supposed to provide the funding, which it is doing. But unfortunately, both Delhi and Punjab have only been able to use 30% of that. 70% goes unutilized, which is gross inefficiency. So they cannot hide with their inefficiency and put it on somebody else.
Do you want to respond to this? Advocate Anmol Panwal, this is the second time that Dr. Dharinder Tayal is making this allegation. The first time also you did not respond to this. Do you want to respond to this? And also, the question I want to ask you is, just about a few days ago, you had Arvind Kejriwal as well as Chief Minister Atishi both on the roads, inspecting the roads, saying that they are going to be working on war footing to ensure that the potholes are dealt with. Well, that's of course welcome, and that's hugely important. But we are staring at an invisible pothole, a toxic air that all of us are breathing. Any war footing measures that you could be looking at? I'm not very sure what could really work, but nonetheless, anything that you can promise?
The Delhi government's commitment to combat pollution and fostering a sustainable future is evident with the kind of actions we have taken in the last 10 years. The pollution in Delhi reduced by more than 36%. We introduced tree transplantation policy with a target of planting 4 crore trees within 5 years. And we achieved this target within 4 years. We provide a stable 24/7 electricity supply in Delhi, which has eliminated the need for generator sets. We have increased the green cover of Delhi from 20% in 2015 to 23% in 2023. We have also introduced a very progressive electric vehicle policy, and more than 50% of vehicles plying on Delhi roads are being electric. So these are some of the measures which we have taken in as far as Delhi is concerned. and we are still working on it. We know that there's a lot to do, and that is why we will certainly make a commitment to the people of Delhi that we will ensure
most of
that
the things that you have said are very long-term measures. And they are welcome. But Chaudhry Savik Malik, just a minute. Advocate Anmol Panwar, let me just make one thing very clear. I'm not very sure what you mean that Delhi air quality levels have improved and the air pollution is reduced. Because if you look at hard facts, just the last year, as well as the year before, saw many records break, including the December, which is, another festive peak season, saw the worst air quality levels since 2018.
The bad air days have reduced from 259 in 2015 to 155 in 2023. So it's not that there's no improvement in the air quality of Delhi. And it's not a Delhi-specific problem, Sneha ji.
We need to understand. Would you agree with that?
We need to understand that there are adjoining states of Uttar Pradesh, of Haryana, wherein even the World Quality Air Report says that more than 20 polluted cities in India are from Haryana. Although Mr. Tayal was saying that there are only 2,000 instances of farm fires, which is not true.
I'm giving the numbers. I gave the numbers.
All right. Chetan Bhattacharya, would you agree with what... just a minute, would you agree with what Advocate Anmol Panwar has said in terms of the days of pollution that have reduced and the percentage that he is claiming?
Look, I think the numbers might be right, but it's the way of slicing and dicing the data. You make it look good. As Bhavri was pointing out earlier, the Indian AQI system is far behind what the WHO's guideline is. For instance, the safe level of PM2.5 is, I think, 40 micrograms. The annual average recommended by the WHO is 5 micrograms. When authorities in India say that, there's so many poor days and so many good days, what they tend to do is club the lowest 3. So that's good, moderate, and satisfactory all together. But those would not pass muster according to the WHO safe guidelines. So what he's saying is technically right. Is it safe enough for health? No, it's not. The science is very clear. And I think it's time that all those in authority, they accept publicly. In private, a lot of them do accept the science, but they need to publicly accept the science and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, not just in the last week of September and the first week of October, but right throughout the year, every year. And then we could probably see some kind of significant reduction in air pollution.
चौधरी सावित मलिक, मैं आपसे लास्ट में एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ, एक और सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ. आपके फार्मर्स एसोसिएशन ने कुछ डिसाइड किया है कि अगले 2 महीने में ये करने वाले हैं, ये एफर्ट्स लेने वाले हैं, ये मेजर्स लेने वाले हैं, जो पिछले साल के हार्वेस्टिंग सीजन से अलग होगा. आप लोगों ने कुछ निर्णय लिए हैं? बिकॉज हर जगह, चाहे वो कोर्ट हो, चाहे वो सरकारें हो, काफी उंगलियां उठ रही हैं, लेकिन आप किसानों ने कुछ निर्णय लिया है?
स्नेहा जी, मैंने पहले ही आपको कहा था कि देखो, सभी राजनीतिक पार्टियां एक दूसरे पर आरोप लगाती हैं, जनता के लिए कुछ नहीं करना चाहती है. किसान तो अपनी खेती कर रहा है और उसका जो वेस्टेज है उसको जलाना नहीं चाहता, क्योंकि वो बिकने लगा है, उसका अच्छा रेट मिलता है. लेकिन किसान से कुछ मिलता नहीं है सरकारों को, और उद्योगपतियों से, और जो गाड़ी बिकती है उससे टैक्स मिलता है, उद्योगपतियों से टैक्स मिलता है, फैक्ट्रियों से टैक्स मिलता है. इसलिए उन पे उंगली नहीं उठा सकते हैं. किसान एक सॉफ्ट कॉर्नर है. मैं बार बार कह रहा हूं, जब कोई नहीं मिलता किसान पर आरोप लगाए जाते हैं. लेकिन किसान तो हमेशा से प्रदूषण को कंट्रोल करने का काम करता है, पेड़ लगाने का काम करता है, उसकी फसलें भी कंट्रोल करती है. अब ये इसी से परेशान है. ये देखिए, जमुना जी के वजह से दिल्ली के अंदर कितना,
तो इसका मतलब है कि आप लोगों ने अपने एसोसिएशंस अपने आप से कुछ ऐसा डिसाइड नहीं किया इस साल के लिए?
नहीं, किसान,
मेरा समय खत्म हो रहा है. थैंक यू वेरी मच टू आवर पैनलिस्ट.
किसान कंट्रोल कर रहा है, किसान जलाना नहीं चाहता, क्योंकि सरकार का भी दबाव होता है, और अगर वो जलाता है उसके ऊपर एफआईआर होती है, जुर्माना होता है. तो किसान अब कोई पराली और पत्ती नहीं जला रहा है.
सर, नंबर्स तो वो नहीं बता रहे. खैर, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. समय का मेरा खत्म हो रहा है सर. मुझे ये डिस्कशन रोकना पड़ेगा. Chetan Bhattacharya, Bhavreen Kandari, Chaudhry Savit Malik, Advocate Anmol Panwar, as well as Dr. Dharinder Tayal. Thank you very much for joining. This is an unending discourse, and unfortunately, we are possibly bracing for some worse times. Thank you very much for joining us.